Now, we read this already before to you, right, about Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesying, "Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000 of his holy ones." Well, notice that phrase, the seventh from Adam. Well, of course, if you look at the genealogy in Genesis, you'll notice he's seventh. But it never refers to Enoch as the seventh from Adam. But it does in the New Testament, and it does in all the intertestamental literature, including Enoch. So there, in other words, this phrase of referring to him as the seventh from Adam is a sort of an idiom or a phrase that paints a picture of him in our minds. And the New Testament says that as well as the Book of Enoch, but not in the Old Testament. And then we have, let's see, where am I? Oh, okay, so here's that passage in Enoch 1. We already quoted this before. So the question is, but is he just quoting Enoch? Or other scholars will give some suggestions. Well, maybe he's just quoting a common source. In other words, there's some other source we don't have. Enoch's quoting him and Jude's quoting him. So it's not the Book of Enoch. Well, you can see how that's sort of like trying to wriggle out of it. And the problem is those same scholars would not turn around and say, well, when Matthew, too, talks about the Messiah being born in Bethlehem from Isaiah, quoting the prophet, they're not quoting Isaiah. He's quoting a common source with Isaiah. They won't say that, will they? Another view is, well, maybe only this statement that the New Testament quotes, only that statement is true. Well, we can say only that statement's canonical, I guess, if, we're committed to the canon. But that doesn't mean only that statement's true at all. I mean, again, imagine if you look at all the prophecies that Matthew quotes of Isaiah related to Messiah, but only those prophecies are true, not the rest of Isaiah. No, of course you wouldn't do that. Some people might say, well, maybe this is just a shallow cultural reference. Like maybe, the Book of Enoch, just like nowadays, people quoting common things, and they're just sort of, the New Testament writer is sort of addressing that in a generic way or something like that. And for instance, Acts 17, Paul quotes the pagans, right? I don't think that's the case, and I think I'm not just saying that because I don't like it, but because this is not the only place that Enoch is really referred to. Let me show you some other examples that show he's not just quoting Enoch, he's actually using phrases, themes, memes, motifs. You know what a meme is, right? Meme is like a repeated phrase that enters into the cultural stream, right? But he's repeating all these things that are in Enoch. Even sometimes they follow the structure of Enoch. So that will show that it's clearly not a shallow cultural reference. So let's take a quick look at, first of all, in Jude and Enoch, the whole letter of Jude, the greetings of Jude matches the greetings match. So in the greeting of Jude, we read about those who are called, beloved in God, the Father, kept for Jesus Christ. May peace, mercy, and love be multiplied to you. And Enoch talks about to all the righteous, he will grant peace, preserve the elect, kindness shall be upon them. Okay, the language here, the point is both of them are talking about the preservation of the elect, followed by God's mercy or kindness, and the multiplication of blessings. All right? Now, again, if I were to just make one example, you could probably say, well, maybe it's a coincidence. But when you've got multiple examples of this, it's clearly showing an influence that goes beyond that. The theme of Jude matches the theme of Enoch, right? The theme is that, in Jude, is that certain people, he's talking about these certain people, these blasphemers who long ago were designated for condemnation. So he's talking about false teachers in the church, but he's talking about how they were long ago designated for the condemnation that's coming up. Enoch has the same thing about it's condemning those who are going to be judged, saying things were sealed in heaven about to befall sinners. All right, so the thematic approach is the same as well. Well, that's not all. Jude also uses a kind of midrash, and midrash is a form of addressing Scripture, but you weave in allusions, rather than just quoting, they'll weave in allusions, motifs, memes, right? And we've got those. We've got those all over the place in Jude. In Jude 6, we hear about and 2 Peter, we hear about them being cast, these angels being cast into Tartarus. And in Enoch talks about being cast into a precious Sheol. Now, to know these terms, Tartarus is the lowest place of Sheol, the underworld, so they're all kind of the same thing. And I want to make this point right now that I give that 2 Peter passage because 2 Peter 2 is a repeat of Jude. It's almost like he probably used the letter of Jude and copied it, but then added a couple other elements to it. And there are a couple new elements in Peter that aren't in Jude, so that's why I'm bringing Peter in, but largely Peter follows the same point as Jude. 2 Peter, that is. But there's also these phrases that are very fascinating. Jude talks about these evil people as being waterless clouds, fruitless trees, raging waters, wandering stars. Darkness is their dwelling forever. Exactly what what Enoch talks about as well. The waterless clouds, fruitless trees, raging waters. In fact, Enoch 80 follows the same order of calling the condemned waterless clouds, fruitless trees, and wandering stars. Same exact order. Very much, you can see how when you're using the same language, the same memes, the same themes, yeah, okay, maybe it's not an apodictic mathematical certainty that I can prove to you, but I mean, you don't need much more to make your point. But there also talks about the watchers. Jude 6 talks about angels who did not keep their own domain, but abandoned their proper abode and went after strange flesh, and talks about in the days of Noah, but there's a connection with Sodom and Gomorrah as well. Now, who are these angels? What is this talking about? Well, in the book of Enoch, we read about the watchers of heaven who abandoned the high heaven, the holy eternal place. They defiled themselves with women, right? Going after strange flesh. Most people tend to think that that's homosexuality, but it's not because they're angels. So I think it's a reference to them going after humans, going after strange flesh, which is angels, which is inappropriate in God's economy. And so they defiled themselves with women, and then Enoch talks about, of course, the giants and Noah, and it ties in the judgment on Sodom and Gomorrah with the judgment in the days of Noah. This is a very important thing because in the Bible, there's no linking, in the Old Testament, there's no linking of Sodom and Gomorrah judgment with the judgment of the flood. There's no thematic linking, but there is all over the intertestamental literature, including the book of Enoch. Then in the New Testament, we read linking the judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah with the judgment of Noah's day, judgment of the flood. So clearly, this is an Enochian influence. It doesn't end. He talks about how these angels were kept in eternal bonds under darkness for the judgment of the great day, just like the watchers in Enoch. He talks about how they're cast into Tartarus. I already mentioned that, just like in Enoch. Talks about them being wandering stars, just like Enoch, where the prison house for the stars who transgress the commandments of God. The reason why he calls us wandering stars is because in the ancient world they believed that the stars, the host of heaven, were interchangeable with the gods. And in the Bible, it also uses the heavenly host. Sometimes it's talking about the stars, and sometimes it's talking about God's heavenly host. So it kind of uses it interchangeable. So that metaphor of stars is a common metaphor for angels. I'm just warming up. Now we got 1 Peter.